Hey there, my name's Nader Najad and I make videos for international students coming to Canada, as well as newcomers who want to start new businesses, and especially people moving to Halifax. So if you fall under any of those categories, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a thing and turn on my notifications. Today we're going to be talking about social skills in Canada, and it may sound really simple, but I've gotten this question before. Nader, how should I act in Canada? How should I make friends? And a lot of international students don't really know how to communicate with other people just because where they come from, their cultures are just different, that's all. So we're going to talk about how you can communicate effectively with people in Canada, and when I say effectively, I mean make friends, bond with people, connect, and not seem like a complete weirdo. So, first things first, hygiene. Hygiene is extremely important because if you're smelly, then you're probably not going to make many friends because you're smelly. So what I recommend you do is always practice good hygiene. Brush your teeth every day. Generally, we brush it in the morning and nighttime, and that might sound silly, but some people don't know that. Deodorant. Wear it religiously. If you don't wear deodorant, then you need to start, because most of us get smelly. So get a good deodorant stick, and I'm talking about deodorant that you apply under your armpits. I'm not talking about taking some cologne and spraying it on yourself. I'm talking about actual deodorant here. Also, deodorant and fragrances don't make up for not showering. You should try to shower as frequently as possible. In the Western world, we hold cleanliness, and not saying people in the Western world are more hygienic or practice better hygiene. There are some real smelly people down here, but what I recommend you do is try to shower. The frequency is going to depend on how often you get smelly, not how often you think you get smelly, but how often you get smelly. So you want to take a shower. Generally, I sweat a lot, so I take a shower daily. Some people don't sweat at all. If you're sitting at home all day and you're smelling like a clean loofah, then you don't need to take a shower. But I'm saying generally, if you're not showering daily, at least shower every other day or more. I recommend the more end, but you don't want to over shower so that you dehydrate. It's your own preference, but try to do it daily if you can. Other than that, let's go over some other really simple ground rules. No staring. Do not stare at people. There are some international students where it's very normal, and I don't know for a fact, I haven't researched it, but just from my general experience throughout life, I find generally Middle Eastern people, which is my background as well, if you look into it, is also some Middle Eastern. They like to stare. They stare at you. In Persian culture, they stare at you as well, but in areas throughout the Middle East, staring is a very common, very normal, it's an okay thing. You can just you can be in a mall and someone will just be like, it's very normal. But here it's not. You stare at somebody, it means two things. A, I want to fight you, or B, I'm really weird. So don't stare at people. You can look at people, you can glance, but do not stare at people and just make constant eye contact, alright? You don't have to be looking at the ground. Looking at people is fine. Making eye contact when you pass them on the street, again, is okay. But for some reason in the Western world, we find eye contact to be uncomfortable. I'm okay with it, but even when somebody is intently staring at me, like if I go to, if I'm in Peterborough and there's lots of people in Peterborough are Caucasian, sometimes I see somebody else who is not Caucasian and they are staring at me. And I'm thinking, alright, you can look at me, but the staring, don't stare. Other things. Do not touch people without asking them first. And don't ask to touch them for no reason. Just, if you're in the elevator, if you're walking down the street, do not reach out and touch people. And we take that very seriously. And also, personal bubbles, we take very seriously as well. Do not get too close to people. Do not get right in their face. Generally, about an arm's length is probably adequate. You don't have to stand back like a weirdo. You can get close. If we're doing an interview on radio, we can be in a more intimate space because it calls for it. But do not get right up into people's faces. Try to stay out of their grill and just, keep that distance, keep that respect. When you greet people, just say hello to them. Generally, shaking hands is seen as formal, unless you do it in a really relaxed way. See, if you want to put your hand out and shake hands, that is fine, okay? But you don't do it on a general basis every single place you go. You just say hi to someone or hello. You can shake someone's hand, especially if you do it in a more natural way. So if I haven't seen a friend for a long time, I say, hey buddy, how are you? I'll grab their hand, give them a little hug because I know them. But I don't do this to people I don't know, and I do not weirdly stick out my hand in a formal way and shake random people's hands. So it really depends on how you telegraph, which is like how you, if I'm going to go shake a friend's hand, I'm not going to be like, hello, how are you, sir? I'm going to be like, hey, how are you, buddy? And give him a handshake. You know, that's fine. So it's really about understanding people's comfort levels. I hope you've picked up some skills already just from, you know, understanding these different social skills that I'm trying to teach you here. Also, progress slowly with your relationships. When you meet somebody for the first time, do not tell them that you want to be their friend for life. That's weird. If you go on a date, do not tell them you love them on the first date. That is weird. I'm telling you according to, not my subjective beliefs, but according to what I have seen here, living in Canada my entire life. I was born in Canada. So for the past couple decades and longer, I have really been able to witness these things. So that's my advice up front to you. You may have some other questions about social skills. Generally, try to be as comfortable as possible, be as relaxed as possible, but do not be like, don't stare, don't do things that create tension. If it creates tension, generally it is a bad thing. Try not to be smelly. Like, I think these are, practice good hygiene. Like, these are at the, don't talk about money. That's another one. Don't talk, like, it's fine to be like, hey, if you're with a roommate, like, want to split a bill, or like, hey, yeah, that job, I'm making okay money, or like, yeah, that job is good pay, or I don't have enough money right now. These things are okay, but don't ask people like, how much money do you have in your bank account? Those aren't things we ask. Generally, it is a culture, the best way to explain it, where you don't want to be too nosy and you don't want to stare at people. Their business is not your business. And unless you build rapport with an individual and build a trust and connection, you cannot pry and dig deep into people's lives like that. And you can't come into their personal space. It's something that you have to build with time, and that's why it takes a high level of socialization and social skills to be able to develop that connection and to make relationships more malleable and to be able to work your way into other people's lives and build true connections with them. A lot of international students find that difficult because you can't do that off the bat. And if you do something like stare at someone's soul, they find it weird. So you have to slowly find a way to get comfortable with your own energy and build rapport with another person. Generally be nice to them, they're nice to you, you start hanging out, and then you start to become friends. It does not happen in another way. Maybe you're extremely charismatic and you have the charisma of God, and if that's the case, then potentially you can make 50 friends at the same time, but you will never do it by being what we see here as weird. So that's my advice to you. Don't panic. Honestly, we all do weird things now and again without realizing it. That's normal. But for the most part, once you get comfortable here, comfortable making relationships, forming bonds, you will be okay. Anyway, thanks for watching and take care.